How can you wholesale and or sign a deal to a cash buyer if the realtor writes up the contract for you? Isn't their contract non-assignable? It sounds like there's a big general assumption there.
Yeah, definitely a big assumption, but a great question. I mean, we love wholesaling real estate deals that are listed on the market. Yeah. If you guys have watched any of our content, you guys know that we do a lot of deals from the MLS. We love wholesaling with real estate agents in multiple states around the country. Our students wholesale properties from the MLS in almost every state. So it really just depends at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. We don't know which particular purchase agreement is being used. Realtors may or may not have an assignable purchase and sale agreement, right? So there are assignable purchase and sale agreements, and there are some that have language built in that makes them not assignable unless there's the seller's written permission. So it is important to note that contract law, really, no matter what state you're in, does state that purchase agreements are assignable by default. Now, knowing that, unless your real estate purchase and sale agreement has a clause that prohibits assignment, then it is assignable by nature. Yep. So we will see, such as the California residential purchase agreement, right, the California RPA, and as well as other realtor purchase agreements, they will have a clause that says, this contract is not assignable unless the seller and all parties essentially sign and agree to it after the fact, and that the seller may not withhold consent, right? May not unreasonably withhold consent. So essentially, you have to read the contract. So like most of the purchase and sale agreements that we receive from realtors are assignable, right? So we work with deals in Texas, Florida. We have a lot of deals happening in those states. So those agreements, right, the TREC contract and the Florida Realtor contract, especially the TREC contract, doesn't have any assignable language baked into it. So as long as there's no additional amendments or language, that is assignable by default. And you can simply use this assignment addendum right along with that. Now, if you have a contract that has language prohibiting assignments, then all you have to do is get all parties to sign an amendment, which says that, hey, I am now going to be closing in a different entity. We are now closing in the name of my financing partner or my money partner who's going to be bringing the cash to the deal. We have multiple entities and we are going to be closing in a different one. So we're very excited to be closing on this deal, under the same terms of this agreement. We're excited to close this deal with you. Like, everything's on track. We're just going to be closing in a different entity. Boom. There you go. So all you have to do is amend the original contract, which is something that happens in almost every single real estate transaction. So every contract, I think this is like a big aha moment for people who haven't done a deal, is that even if you enter into a purchase agreement, you can always make changes to that later, which are also legally binding. So you can amend any term in a contract as long as everyone agrees to it. So it's a very simple thing to overcome, and it doesn't cause a lot of friction. And this is why we'll enter into non-assignable agreements, knowing that we can simply change the name later.
Absolutely. And this question was an important one. This was from YouTube. I've seen this hundreds of times throughout the years. There's just a big general assumption that an on-market deal, on-market contract is not assignable. And like you said, it depends. If there's nothing about assigning or prohibiting assigning in there, then we just use an assignment addendum, and we and the cash buyer agree to assign the contract. In the case where it prohibits assignment, then we have the buyer, the seller, and us make a change to the contract. We get the addendum signed by all parties, and then we're able to assign it. So I think there's a lot of people that have not even pursued on-market properties because they have this false belief that you can't assign them for whatever reason, whatever reason there is out there. But you say some great things, that every contract can be changed if all parties agree. Every contract can be changed. Everything is negotiable. So even it says that you can't do something in a contract, if you then get all parties to agree to make that change, then you can assign it. You can do whatever you want in the contract. You can change the closing date. You know, you can change the purchase price.
Exactly.
You can change everything in the contract. And, you know, I think once you start to understand that, wow, these contracts are really important, knowing what's in the contracts are important, knowing that everything is negotiable, knowing that if we can create another addendum, changing anything else we want, doesn't have to be an assignment, you know, you have a lot of power. I think you have a lot of freedom now to understand, like, okay, I can start to be creative in real estate. I can start to close deals. You know, not everything, you know, has to be done an exact certain way. I can change and modify things as we go. And some of the best deals we've done, you know, have been because we need to extend the closing date, have been because we need to assign the deal 3 times, you know, to be able to close it, because we have made the mistakes of having buyers that weren't able to follow through. So these are the things to expect to come up. And I think if you're armed with this knowledge, armed with these expectations, you're gonna have a way higher likelihood of success as opposed to not.
Totally. Yeah. And I think especially if you haven't bought anything on market, you haven't wholesaled any properties on market with agents, then I think there might be this like limiting belief of approaching the conversation with the agent. So, I mean, we definitely help a lot of newer wholesalers have these conversations so that they have that finesse and they have the confidence to approach it and realize it's not that big of a deal. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So it's something, I'm glad you mentioned it, because you know, people shy away from on-market wholesaling, but it is very, very lucrative. There's always new properties, and it's just a matter of, you know, navigating that conversation if you even need to have it in the first place.
Be on the lookout for the next video in this series. And if you want to build a hyper-profitable wholesaling and flipping business, then check out my full in-depth training at realestateskills.com/watch. See you there, and happy wholesaling.